We'll call the meeting to order for the Wicomico County Council Legislative Session 2019-7 for August 20th, 2019. Those who'd like to stand and join us in the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, please do. All right, first item on the agenda, council members, we're going to do this a little bit differently. It's something that Bill McCain had suggested a little while ago. It's approval of consent agenda. It's one where we can approve all the minutes at the same time with one motion. So entertain a motion, if I could, to approve for the approval of the consent agenda for the all the minutes that are before you on the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, any corrections or discussion in regard to any of the minutes on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The approval of the consent agenda has been approved. Mrs. Hurley, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. The first item on the agenda this morning is a public hearing on the surplus property list. In accordance with Chapter 22 of the Wicomico County Code, the county executive has submitted a list of county-owned property that he desires the council to declare to be surplus. The council is required to have a public hearing on the list, and then at the next legislative session, the council by resolution may declare that any of the parcels are no longer needed for public use and therefore surplus. A public hearing notice was published on the county's website and in the Daily Times, stating that a public hearing would be held this morning at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Hurley. At this time, we open the floor for public hearing on the surplus property list. If you have any comments that you'd like to make in reference to this, come to the podium and state your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Okay, that concludes the public hearing on the surplus property list. I guess we'll have to decide whether we want to have a formal work session on this again or not. But
This will be back on the agenda at the next meeting for your
Right.
consideration.
We'll be on a work session. I have some questions.
we could do that. I don't think there's any rush on it. We might do it. I like to get things moving as quickly as possible, but I believe a work session would probably be best. I had questions as well.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hurley.
Mr. Taylor, do you have anything to add?
Well, it can wait till the work session, but I would direct council's attention to its code section 22-1. There is a somewhat elaborate process for disposing of surplus property. You might want to look at that before the work session. I won't go into it now.
What was that number again?
22-1. I have a copy of it here. If anybody would like a copy, I'll just pass it over.
Could that be sent to us, Ms. Early? Could we
Yes,
just-
I can email that to everyone.
Yeah, or you can just send it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you do that? Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing on resolution number 118, 2019, authorizing an honorary street sign entitled El Jolly Way to be placed on North Curlew Drive and South Curlew Drive in honor of Loretta B. Jolly. Council recently adopted an honorary street sign policy, and this is the first application for council's consideration. The county executive has approved the application, and the next step is for council to hold a public hearing and vote on the request. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Times and posted on the county's website, stating that a public hearing would be held this morning at 10 a.m.
Okay. Ms. Hurley. Hang on a second, please. This time, we hold a public hearing on Resolution 118, 2019. If you have any comments that you'd like to make, come to the podium, state your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. This concludes the public hearing on Resolution 118, 2019. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 118, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. The only question I had is, in this whole process, I don't think we really initiated a dedication procedure as to where it goes from here, if I'm not mistaken.
It's my understanding that the resolution approving the request would then go to the county executive, who would then forward it to Public Works to work out the cost and getting that fee for the county.
Okay. And I'm hoping that our process administration will develop some type of process whereby there'll be a formal dedication on each of these signs instead of just maybe posting it. It's kind of like left the loose end there, I think, maybe. Not that it's a legislative matter to begin with, but hopefully there would be a dedicated process there, or a
Interest anyway.
consistency of a dedication. All right. Okay. All those in favor of Resolution 118, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution passes.
The next item for business is Resolution 119, 2019, authorizing Tix, Inc. as a sole source vendor for the purchase of software and support for online ticket sales, and to waive the formal competitive bidding process for the purchase of said online ticket sales software and support during fiscal year 2019. This resolution does require a supermajority in order for it to pass.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Entertain a motion to approve Resolution 119, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Why are
Council-
we waiving the bidding process?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nicholas Rice, purchasing agent for Wicomico County.
Pam Olin, Deputy Director, Rec Parks and Tourism. So this is the ticketing system that the county has had since, I think it's 2002. And the system is, it's kind of like having Unisys software. It is a software package. We have to buy proprietary tickets. It is labor-intensive and cost-ineffective at times to change your software package, especially if your software package is working well. And so we have elected to stay with the process that we have. They only charge us 25 cents for tickets that we do through the box office, and they charge us, I have to find my note or I'm going to say the wrong amount. Sorry.
And this did come before the council last fiscal year as well, too.
Yeah, we've come back, I think this is the third year. I can't find my note at the moment, I apologize. I think they charge us $1.50 when we do it online. Or so when somebody goes online and through our website and buys it, we get charged $1.50. Again, that is very, they have never changed their prices since we originally implemented this back in 2002. So again, we feel it's a very cost-effective way to save the county money without having to go through the process of changing our whole product.
And this is common with software, like she said, the Munis financial software. We don't go out to bid for that. That's a software that we're using and utilizing up until if it fails or if something were to happen where the company would go under, that type of thing, then we would go out to bid for something like that. But software-related projects are a lot of times continued as long as it's working.
And this product, we have excellent customer service from Tix to us. When we had to have the transition in our box office back in December, they voluntarily flew somebody out to spend multiple days training our next box office manager on the product. And we have direct cell phone numbers for high-level employees at that company to be able to help us if we have an issue.
Well, I think your explanation is important.
Joe?
Understand the problems of changing a system and the cost and retraining employees to use a different system and all that, but I think it would be nice if we had something to compare the cost to. That's something that we don't have, and apparently you don't have. Did you check to see if they're in line price-wise with other companies before you decided just to go ahead and re-up with these folks, or?
Not for this year. I
Not
can,
for the-
I can accomplish that for you if you'd like.
Well,
And like she said, they did hold prices from 2002 and never raised them. If and when there comes a time where we see a raise or something along those lines, then we would get together and say, okay, is this something we want to look into doing for the following year?
I know technology has changed a lot since 2002, and, there could be companies out there that, and I understand, it's like a friend of mine worked at a bank that changed owners like 3 or 4 times while she was there, and she said, I gotta quit this, but, and I understand the problems of changing, but, with nothing to compare it to, I think we're being short-sighted on what we're doing.
We can, for next year, do an informal, but at this point in time, we are requesting that, at least for this year, that we approve this, and that for next year, when we come back, we would have some additional information as to why we still feel this is the best route to go.
One other question, and this is kind of unrelated to this, but I'm hearing complaints about people buying tickets online from a website that looks like Wicomico County's but isn't, then they can't get their money back.
Unfortunately, we don't have any leg to stand on. If they buy them from a scalper and don't buy it from the official, it's like you going out to, and buying it from a
Right.
scalper outside.
How much is that related? How I haven't looked it up, but that site they buy from, how much does it look like Wicomico County?
I have heard, I have not, because we get blocks on certain websites. I can't actually go to the website. I've been told we're Wicomico County, or WicomicoCivicCenter.org, I believe. And I think there's one that has pretty much the same name, .com.
Awesome.
I have tried to go there from our own website. I can't because we're blocked.
Yeah.
With,
You're blocked?
well, it's the IT firewalls, making sure that I don't go somewhere inappropriate. So I have not, but somebody bought that domain name,
Yeah.
and we don't have a control over that. We try to advertise in all of our advertisement, this is the website that you need to buy from.
So we are doing that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, that's fine. It's nothing related.
So
to this.
if it's called scalping, isn't that illegal? If you sold tickets in front of the Civic Center, that
But
would
it's
be
not,
scalping.
we don't have any, that is the person who is buying it who would have to then file the complaint. I have no control. I sold to a legitimate customer at the price that is posted on our website. What they did with those tickets, I don't have control over that. And so it did come up during some of our recent cancellations that we had to refund money. Well, the people that we have to refund it to is the person who legitimately bought it from us, not the person who bought it from a reseller.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 119, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried, resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item for your consideration is Resolution Number 120, 2019, authorizing the county executive to accept a grant from the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention in the amount of $389 for the Youth Diversion Mediation Program. And we have Michelle Bradley here, Director of Wicomico Partnership for Families and Children.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 120, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, Michelle? Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Good. I think it's just an overview of the purpose of the grant and the benefit of the grant. And I appreciate you reaching out to obtain the grant to begin with, because that's critical, I think, to the county, that as many grants as possible that we could take advantage of. It's always great for the county. But if you could just
Oh, just an
sort of give us an
overview.
overview as what you see as the main benefit. And
Well, this is actually a bridge grant, just to get our program started until the actual funds come on October 1st. So it's very short. It only runs from July 1st to September 30th of 2019. And it is basically to work with, it's between the vendor, state's attorney's office, and local law enforcement. They work with juvenile offenders on minor offenses such as runaway, shoplifting, simple assaults, truancy, malicious destruction, those kind of things. And they mediate with the parent and the offending child to talk about the impact it has on the household and how they're going to overcome that. But then the step 2 is to also have the offending child mediate with the victim and/or witnesses that may have observed the crime. And I think it's going to be very beneficial to the community, especially for those first-time offenders. I mean, when you have to face the person that you hurt and see exactly those consequences, I think it's going to be a very effective tool to keep those children from getting into trouble or getting referred to Department of Juvenile Services in the future. So I think it's a very good preventative action.
Ms. Bradley, what is a
Yes.
bridge grant?
Bridge grant, that's just going to take us until October 1st when the federal funding, there was a larger grant. The LMB applied for the larger grant, and only 4 jurisdictions out of the 24 were awarded the larger grant. So to get us started, to keep us on the Governor's Office of Children's cycle, they gave us this bridge money to go from July to September when the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention money kicks in, and that'll be for about $98,000.
Is this a matching grant?
No, the county has to, no, it's not match.
Okay, good.
No. We only have to report quarterly, and everything with GOCCP is digital, so there's no paper involved either. Everything's just sent to us from the vendor. We go verify, monitor, upload it, and we just have to report to GOCCP. And there's only one other additional reporting, and that is to the Bureau, I'm trying to remember, make sure I get it right, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, because it's federal funds and it has to do with some of their Accounting and Transparency Act. So we have to do just duplicate reporting.
so it doesn't really add a new position. It just helps fund your department as a whole.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Ms. Bradley, I have a few questions. Who is the vendor?
The vendor has been identified as Tri-Community Mediation.
Okay. And they've had experience with this type of mediation
Yes.
with the offender and the victim
Yes.
meeting? Okay. And do they have any data showing this is being effective? Have
They do, and it comes from the, I did not bring that with me, I just brought the grant facts, not the actual data sheets, but those are available because we had to use it when we applied for the grant.
Okay.
They have national statistics and statewide statistics because they are also accredited, so they're monitored through a statewide mediation certification program. So they have to report all that data locally to the state, and then it goes to national for accountability and fidelity, so.
Okay. And then I also noticed in the grant that it will be in conjunction with the state police and the city of Salisbury Police Department. Will they also be working with the county sheriff? Because that's, one of my concerns is truancy is a problem, and that affects school funding and there's so many other issues that go with that. And so in the county sheriff's department is they're in the schools. And so I'm just wondering how they could,
I don't think they specifically said county, but when we go to do our MOU with the vendor, we can stipulate that to make sure that they're reaching out to reach all the jurisdictions and municipalities in the county.
Okay. And I wanted to say thank you. This is an amazing grant.
Oh, thank you. We were very excited, 1 of 4 out of 24 that got it. So it
Yeah,
was very
congratulations.
exciting. Yeah, thank you.
And with that said, do you have, she mentioned data, and I was going to ask about seeing results. Do you have anything to compare to when this year is over?
When this, not locally, no, this has not been done locally.
Will you be able to?
Well, we're going to
start?
start tracking that data. We have specific performance measures that we came up for local data, and then GOCCP gave us 8 performance measures that we have to track for the state. So all of that will be combined, and we would have that for you. If you wanted a mid-year or an end-year report, we would certainly be willing to do that, especially since this is a brand-new program.
It would be
That would be
nice to see the results and how effective this program will be.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We can do that.
Any other questions? All those in favor of Resolution 120, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried, resolution passes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Resolution Number 121, 2019, to authorize the county executive to acquire an easement on 171.5 acres, more or less, within the Quantico Creek Rural Legacy Area from Taylor Potter, Raymond Baby, and Tina Potter Doak, located on Cherry Walk Road, designated as tax map 35, parcel 34. And we have Mr. Frank McKenzie here, Chief of Technical Services and Environmental Planning, if there are any questions.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 121, 2019.
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion? Mr. McKenzie, how are you? Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
If you could just let the public know your title, your position, and your name, and all the other good stuff.
My name is Frank McKenzie. I work with the Wicomico County Planning Office and Chief of Environmental Services and Environmental Planning. Introduce
And
yourself.
I'm Jared Parks. I'm the Land Programs Manager with the Lower Shore Land Trust. In partnership with the county on the easements.
Great.
If you
Okay.
could speak into the microphone for us so the recorder will pick it
Just
up.
give us an overview, if you don't mind, Frank. I know
Sure.
you do this a lot.
Well, first of all, thanks for having us today. Today, we're seeking approval for the purchase of an easement on a piece of property on the Cherry Walk Road. This is the north side of Cherry Walk Road. It's property owned by Taylor Potter, Raymond Faby, and Tina Potter Doak. This is for 171.5 acres. For some of you who have not been through the Rural Legacy Program before, just a little bit of history. This was, our program was approved in 2002. And since then, we've been acquiring properties in the Rural Legacy area. And to date, we have protected 4,553 acres, which was 17 projects ranging from 52 acres to 785 acres. Over the years, we have been, it's a competitive grant process. So Wicomico County applies to the state of Maryland for grant funding. And to date, we have received over $8 million, I believe, for the purchase of easements. Now, we also receive funding from the Maryland Department of the Navy, and there's also been an occasional private donation for this. And to date, we have spent over $10 million for protecting these easements. Currently, we have about $1.5 million in our bank, so to speak, for us to purchase easements in the Rural Legacy area. In 2017, we applied to extend or expand our Rural Legacy area. We were initially at 14,000 acres. We were running into a problem where we're pretty much sold out. We're having a hard time finding properties for people willing to participate. So working with the county executive, we expanded the Rural Legacy to go up north towards the Paleo Channel. So we pretty much doubled the size of our Rural Legacy area. We went from 14,000 acres, we added 21, so now over 35,000 acres. So as I mentioned, today we're seeking funding for what we call the Potter property. And we'll be partners on this with the Department of Natural Resources, Department of the Navy, and the Lower Shore Land Trust. And people ask, well, how does the Navy fit into this? Primarily, they have, at the Patuxent Naval Air Station, they do a lot of test flights, and they are trying to protect their airspace as well as the ground underneath their airspace. So what they do is they partner with local government agencies, non-governmental agencies to protect land under their flight path. And they will fund up to 1/2 of the easement cost for, purchased land, so they will not negatively impact folks on the ground. So it's called the Readiness and Environmental Integration in the Atlantic Test Range. And in your package, in the last page, it shows the coverage, that they want to protect. So today, we're talking, about this particular property and previous concerns. There was issues with some of the properties are so big, they run outside the rural legacy area. And we had to expand the rural legacy area. And so this particular property is entirely within the rural legacy area. We don't have to request an expansion. There's also concerns that, we're protecting properties that have development potential. So we look at the county zoning to see how many lots would be allowed. In this case, this is zoned agricultural rural. It's a density of 1 per 15. They're allowed to have, in this case, 11 lots. But the septic bill, which is the Sustainable Growth and Ag Preservation Act, limits you to 7 lots on an ag piece if it's not previously subdivided. So essentially, we are acknowledging that 7 lots supersedes our county zoning. So by purchasing this easement, we will be reducing lots out in our rural area by 7 lots. This is a totally voluntary program. The landowner is willing to do this. So that's where we are today. So as far as the value, there's 2 methods that we go through. First is we work with a firm. We have to do an appraisal, a certified appraisal. And Mr. McCain's firm assisted us with this. We also do what's called an easement valuation system. And I'll let Mr. Parks explain how that works.
So the Maryland Rural Legacy Board recommends use of the EVS, the easement valuation system. It's more of an incentive-based system where it takes the average fair market value of all the mouth easements. So when you do the mouth program, the Maryland Ag Land Preservation Foundation, they do appraisals of the properties as is without the easement. And there are usually about 8 to 10 appraisals in that. You average that. You start at a smaller percentage of that, and then you add on incentive points for protection of resources or good soils or land around it that's preserved. Each property will end up with a different value just because of the nature of the property. And though that's DNR's favored method, the Navy requires a Yellow Book appraisal. Therefore, what we try to do is match the Yellow Book appraisal and use the Yellow Book appraisal to substantiate the value and make the offer, and then substantiate that value to DNR by showing them what the EVS value would be. Oftentimes, you get a lower value on properties like this through an appraisal than you do the EVS. It tends to be the other way around with waterfront property. The EVS doesn't do very well with waterfront property. So we use the two to justify the value that we're offering as a purchase price.
In this case, the certified appraisal came up much less than the EVS. The landowners have accepted certified appraisal. So they've accepted an easement cost of $172,000. Now, on page 5, we break down, how money is being acquired. There's rural legacy funding, Navy funding, and some forest conservation fund. The forest conservation fund is money that's put into that developers pay into an account where they cannot meet their forest conservation requirements on site. So they pay the county 30 cents a square foot, essentially, for the area that they need to acquire. This is not general fund money. This is money that's gone specifically for the protection of forest. In this case, what we do is the easement will have language in there that pretty much says that the forest on site will remain in forest cover. It cannot be converted to another use. So that's a good use for this Forest Conservation Fund. So essentially, the easement cost is $172,000. The related cost, which includes administrative, survey cost, appraisals, title search, is an additional $32,485 for a total of $204,485.60. So we're asking for council approval to proceed.
Okay. Any questions? Sometimes, Frank, you've had lists of priorities of the properties that you designate in this Legacy area. In other words, it's highest priority, second, third, and fourth. Do you still follow that, or are you just trying to get whatever you can?
Well, that's where we start. So we have areas that we look at, that have good soils, good access. They may be waterfront properties.
Right.
We make sure that they have value environmentally, but also we're not protecting something that doesn't need to be protected. So we do rank those, and then all the ones that meet certain standards all will have like a priority one, and then we'll go through those things and start contacting those people. But if nobody in priority one, is interested, then we'll go to priority two. We don't go to anybody below that. If it's not developable, we're not going to waste time on that. But at one time we went through, when we did our initial program, we ranked, it was probably 140 properties. We did not do that with our expansion. We do that on a case-by-case basis as projects come through. Does it have the criteria we're looking for as far as developable and environmental assets?
So is this where, like, you go out and try to solicit owners, or is this where owners come to us and say, hey, I want to take advantage of this? How did this one develop? Just curious.
It's a little bit of both, actually. My experience generally is that landowners know about the program. They hear it from their neighbors that enter the program, spreads by word of mouth, and then they figure out who to contact, and then contact those people. We do outreach as well. Usually try to send a letter every couple of years to anybody that's within the higher priority tiers, just so that they know that the program's available and who to contact to find out about it.
I believe you all had a meeting at the community.
Right, you
Were
all
you
did an
invited?
outreach at the
Outreach.
community center
Yeah.
in the Hebron area. I think it was last year.
It's been a couple of years.
It's been a
Maybe
couple
2
years. I think it
years
was
ago.
before I came on board at
Right,
LSLT.
yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, right. And all the different agencies came and made people aware of the different types of
Types of programs that you
easement
can-
programs that are out there.
Exactly.
So once somebody's in the ag community finds out about this, all of them know. But once somebody finds out that somebody's participating, they'll start talking with each other and asking how it worked, and that's how word really spreads.
Yeah, and the programs are very different, so if you're going into the mouth program versus the rural legacy, it's helpful to know what the differences are and what makes the most sense for you.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Mr. Ken, I need to point out too that, because we had done the real estate appraisal, but actually that's funded by the state, actually, and actually our client is a Lower Shore Land Trust. The county is the administrator of the program, but I'm gonna still abstain from the vote on this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I served for Governor Hogan actually appointed me to the Rural Legacy Advisory Committee, and I work for the Lower Shore Land Trust. So, a great program, it's a great organization, but I'll be abstaining just to be clear on that.
All right.
Good project.
It's 2 down.
You should be glad you've got a good program here with no controversy. You'd be in trouble.
Yeah, there's 3
Always come with fingers
ties.
crossed when I come up here. So.
Okay, all those in favor of Resolution 121, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried, resolution passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. time, we open the floor for public comments. If you have any comments that you would like to make, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. All right, that concludes public comments. Council comments. All right, yes, Josh.
Just going to say it seems to be a short meeting so far. This is an honor.
Yeah, it's going to be a record. Anyone else? No? Okay. The only public comment I have is that Councilwoman Nicole Ackley and I went to Sharptown last night. Doug Gosnell invited us, and we met with Doug and the Sharptown Council and had a very enjoyable exchange, and we appreciate them inviting us. Couldn't completely get the full experience with the carnival and all because there was a little bit of rain that started to come in, but still had a great time and appreciate their hospitality. So that being said, entertain a motion to adjourn so that we can go into open work sessions.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. First item on the open work session agenda is the water and sewer plan amendment for the square at Merritt Mill. Mr. Baker, still morning. All right.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dallas Baker, Director of Public Works for the county. So this is a request for a water and sewer amendment for the Square at Merritt Mill project. It's a residential home project, apartments, townhomes, that kind of thing, over off of Merritt Mill. They're being served by city water and sewer. There's 2 8-inch mains in the Merritt Mill Road that they're tapping into, and I believe it's 75 EDUs and about 190 people that'll be living on the project. Yeah, so they need to adjust from a, I believe it's a W6 S6 right now, and they'll be adjusting that to W1 S1.
Any questions? Now, isn't this the Section 8 program, this project? Josh, you and I did a groundbreaking. Was
Yeah.
it the same?
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
It is. This is the second phase. Remember the part over on Blue Street?
Yes.
This is the second part.
So this is, yeah, because I thought it was funny because we had a lot of people that came in at the last meeting talked about the need for Section 8, and I could appreciate that. But it's funny because I was just thinking, you know, I recognize the need, but my God, we just did a groundbreaking on a multi-million-dollar project, and this is it here. So I'm glad to see it's moving forward. I just wasn't sure if this was the same one, but I thought it might be. Any questions from council regarding this? Anything in particular, Mr. Baker, you think needs to be brought to our attention?
I have a question for you,
Yes.
Mr. Baker. It says here that the MD has reviewed a draft copy and amended request and provided comments back. What did they suggest?
I can provide you a copy with their comments. The process that MDE's revised it to is when we first get the amendment request in, it goes to MDE to look at. They get all of their comments addressed, and then we send it up here to council to get approved. That way, if council approves it, and then we send it to MDE, and then we get comments, things could change. That way, council's seeing what MDE has looked at and said, yep, we're good with it. But I can get you a list of what their comments were.
Okay.
A lot of times it's just clarifications on the plans and things.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it would be great if the city would give us water and sewer and not choose to annex. I mean, we wouldn't have any problem with that, would we?
I will say I did go by there this past week, and it's actually really great to see it come from sketch to build out what everything's looking like now. It looks really great.
Mm-hmm.
Proud of this.
Anything else? Mr. Baker, we appreciate you taking the time.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Dallas?
All right, at this time, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?